Hey everyone, we're going to go over really quick how to graph sine, cosine, tangent on Desmos. So the first thing that you want to do when you get to Desmos is click that wrench because we're going to make some setting changes that will help us be able to grab points easier and just make our lives easier in general. So first thing we're going to change is over here on the x-axis. We're going to go from negative 2 pi to positive 2 pi. And you can get pi by just typing the letters pi, or you can grab this keyboard, I believe, and edit there as well. So that's what I would do first. You can do it from, negative 10 pi to positive 10 pi, whatever you would like to do with that. This is just a good standard starting point. And then for steps, you can use pi, you can use pi over 2 or pi over 3, whatever you would like that works best for the problem that you're working on. I personally like to start with pi over 2 if I'm just graphing standard sine and cosine. The other thing that you want to make sure you do is make sure your calculator is in Radian mode, which is Desmos' default mode. But if you had switched it to degrees or something to do a different type of problem, make sure that you're back in Radian mode. Then, to graph sine, cosine, tangent, all you really have to do is type sine of x, and it graphs it for you. And you can click on these points, the peaks and the troughs and the midline where it crosses the midline, and get some values that way that you might need, like if you want to figure out the period or the amplitude and things like that. You can do the same thing with cosine. And you can also then move the function around, like if you wanted to graph sine of x plus 3, and it moves the midline up for your sine function. You can also then graph the midline. If you want to find the points where it crosses that midline, you can graph y equals 3, and then you can find the places where the function crosses your midline. So that aspect is something that's kind of convenient to do as well. You can also grab points that are at the top or at the peak or at the trough. You could also do, you could change it to be 4 sine of x plus 3, and that changes then the amplitude. And you can see that on your graph as well. So that's the basics of how we would graph sine and cosine in Desmos. You can also graph tangent by doing the same thing. I'm going to get rid of those though so we can actually see it. And as you can see, the tangent graph looks very different than the sine and cosine graph. And it has asymptotes every pi over 2. And also the period changes. Each of these little S curves takes up pi instead of 2 pi. So that's the different, one big difference between sine, cosine, and tangent is definitely the period. The other thing I wanted to show you all, if you are working with a TI calculator instead for graphing purposes, I'll show that as well. So, come on. There we go. Okay, so if you're working with a TI calculator, another thing, just make sure it's in degree mode instead of, or Radian mode instead of degree mode. So you click mode, because notice mine's in degree. And you want to hit enter on Radian mode. Second, quit. And then you can go to y equals, and you can type sine, and then the variable button here, x. And then you'd go to window, and I would type negative 2 pi and positive 2 pi for my x minimum and maximum. And then for the x scale, you can go pi over 2 if you would like. That'll help you more under the table section if you want to take a look at the table. But anyway, then you can hit graph. It also helps you in the graph section because you know each of these tick marks along the x-axis represents pi over 2. So anyway, that's how you can graph it on a TI calculator. If you hit trace, it tells you different values along the way. if you hit second graph, you can get the table, which scales. If you go to table set, so second in window, you can have the table start at 0 and then go up by pi/2 if you would like. And then when you go to the table, it changes it to values that are going to be a little bit more helpful. You can also graph cosine, and you can graph tangent. You can graph them all on the same screen if you would like to, just like you could on Desmos. There's a few more things and features in the TI-84 calculator that might be helpful to those of you who are using a TI-84 for this. So I'll probably go over some more of those in a separate video. But anyway, that's kind of the basic understanding of how to graph sine, cosine, and tangent. So there we go. Hopefully this was helpful. Anyways, good luck.